On October 2nd, 2023, firefighting efforts were underway on the Anvil Fire just east of Port Orford, Oregon. At 1700 hours, a medical emergency incident within an incident was transmitted over the radio. The initial report was a patient suffering from heat exhaustion and unable to walk. Patient condition was assessed as yellow, which means immediate evacuation is not critical. A Rapid Extraction Module Support, or REMS team leader, was nearby and responded in just a few minutes after the initial call. Upon arriving on scene, he took over patient care and assumed the role of medical incident commander. After reassessing the patient, he updated their condition to green.
When it first went out as a yellow, as a heat exhaustion. So we sent the first REMS team in and made patient contact, and it came back out as just exhaustion. And so, that ratcheted down in my mind as the medical section chief, like our tempo, how fast we needed to move. It gave us more decision space.
The REMS team leader considered the options. A short-haul helicopter was positioned about a 5-minute flight away. Drop point 424 was approximately 1 mile away and had good access to a road. Fire activity was minimal, so fire behavior was not a factor. Rain was in the forecast, and about 2 hours of daylight remained.
The patient was non-critical, really uninjured, just unable to hike under his own power. It allowed us to slow things down and make some decisions. But, we were running out of daylight, and there was rain coming. There was already a troop shuttle underway being facilitated by another helicopter, and I believe it was the short haul helicopter was also assisting with it. And so there's configuration time and things like that, time to get overhead. And so all this has to be collated in a rapid manner to make sure we're getting to the right tool to be applied to solve the problem.
The REMS team leader made the decision to get the patient to the drop point on foot. He enlisted the help of the patient's crew to help carry their crew member a short distance uphill to a ridgeline with much gentler terrain. Given the patient's condition, he predicted once they got up the steep hill, the patient would be able to walk with assistance to the drop point where ground transportation would be waiting. The total time to the drop point was estimated to be 1 to 1.5 hours. During the operation, a second REMS team arrived to help with the carryout. Sometime afterward, a third REMS team arrived on scene. There were now a total of 3 REMS teams engaged in the operation. They had the necessary training and equipment needed to extract a patient in difficult terrain. The teams felt comfortable with a ground extraction. During the ascent, it started to rain. By the time the teams reached the ridgeline, the patient was still unable to walk. An additional 20-person crew joined in to assist in the final carry across the ridgeline, bringing the total number of personnel involved to 54. Upon reaching the drop point at 20:52 hours, the patient was transported back to fire camp and made a full recovery. The total time for extraction was 3 hours and 18 minutes, more than twice as long as originally expected. In this instance, the patient had a good outcome. However, during the after-action review, some people questioned the rationale of exposing a total of 54 people to steep and slippery terrain during inclement weather in the dark. The REMS leader explained that after weighing the options, he felt a ground extraction was still lower risk than calling in a helicopter for a non-critical patient in stable condition.
There's hesitancy to put aluminum in the air, and I can understand why. I was on Helitack for years and had my share of close calls with, a flying death machine. But those people on those machines are well-trained. They spend hours and hours a year doing proficiencies. The mechanics know their ships inside and out. We have to have faith in those aviators, that they know what they're going to do, what they need to do to come in.
Although there was some disagreement on the best course of action in this situation, it does not mean the REMS team leader made the wrong choice. There will almost always be multiple solutions to a given problem. No solution will be perfect. What's important is that we consider every possible solution before making a decision.
REMS is a tool. Short haul is a tool. They're just different ways. Ambulances, medic teams, whatever it is. Just like hotshots, Type 3s, air tankers. They're all tools. And you just pick the right tool for the job.
REMS and short haul both have their place and function in emergency medical extraction. Let's clearly define what they are and what they do. The PMS 552 defines a Rapid Extraction Module Support Team, or REMS, as a pre-staged rescue team assigned to a wildland fire to provide firefighters a safe, effective, and efficient method of egress off the fire line in the event of injury or illness incurred during firefighting operations. REMS teams are equipped and trained for extrication in very steep and technical terrain, using a variety of rope systems and mechanical advantage hauling techniques. The main advantage of REMS teams is that they are effective when weather or darkness preclude the use of aircraft. Type 1 REMS teams come with a minimum of 1 paramedic and 1 EMT who can provide basic life support as needed. Short haul is a method of helicopter extraction that suspends the patient on a long line beneath the helicopter. The intent is to carry the patient a short distance to a location where another type of medical transportation is available. The most significant advantage of short haul is that under certain circumstances, it can be much faster than ground rescue. And because they do not need a landing spot, short-haul helicopters can be used in very remote or otherwise inaccessible areas. Short-haul assures minimal patient movement, which is important when transporting an unstable patient. Using short-haul also reduces risk to ground resources by transferring most of the risk to the pilot and crew. However, short-haul operations involve extensive training and follow strict protocols to minimize, but not totally eliminate, the associated risks. National Park Service and U.S. Forest Service short-haul will come with a minimum of 1 EMTF. If you had to decide the best course of action in this scenario, what would you do? Would you order a short-haul? Utilize a REMS team? A combination of both? Or maybe neither. Maybe you would decide to hold a stable and non-critical patient overnight and extract them the next morning in daylight. Consider the following in your decision: patient condition, terrain, fire behavior, time of day, weather, overall risk, and any other factors you can think of. Pause the video here and discuss. Wildland fire operations are inherently dangerous. As firefighters and fire managers, we do everything we can to mitigate risk and operate as safely as possible. But despite our best efforts, injuries are inevitable. If someone is injured in the field, it is important to have a good understanding of all the options available to you, so you can make the best choice for the patient, your crew, and everyone involved in the rescue process.